take us back and how did dance and ballet particularly first come into your life, and why has it been such a force in your life?
I was introduced to ballet when I was about 2 years old. I started lessons when I was 3. My family introduced me to it purely because they didn't really know what to do with all my energy. So it's kind of on a whim that they bought me a video of the Nutcracker, and it was just a hit straight away. And I was just, from the second I woke up to when I went to bed, I was just dancing all day in the living room. They'd have to stop me to make me eat, which would be really boring, and then I'd just carry on dancing.
What is it about dance that you think first moved you, resonated with you? What was it that just captivated you so?
I think even as a 3-year-old, I mean, it's obviously you don't have much understanding of life or things or feelings or emotions, and you don't really know how to process them. But somehow when I was watching these videos of ballet, I just felt like I really could connect with what they were trying to say to each other without words. It was sort of like an instinct, and I could read it, and I felt like I could portray that too. And that's still what I enjoy today, actually, is my favourite part of ballet and dancing, is telling the story without words and how you can say that with just your eyes or your face or your body. I think it's amazing.
That's great. So explain, fast forward now to rehearsals and cats. To somebody who doesn't know what you guys have been doing day in, day out, you're surrounded with so many talented dancers. What has it been like working with these performers and bringing your ballet into that world?
It's been absolutely fascinating working with everyone, actually, because everyone's from all sorts of different dance styles, like completely different disciplines. It's really interesting actually seeing the way that each kind of style, the way that each dancer is trained. So like the mentality is different, everything, the way they warm up, the way they focus, the way they are able to, to choreograph, to freestyle. Freestyling is not something that's very particular in ballet. You're usually given your steps by a choreographer, and then I think the mark of a great ballet dancer is taking those steps and making them your own, making them better, making them come alive. But for a lot of the other dance styles that I've been watching over the last few months, that's very much they create their own steps as they go along, and that's been amazing to watch. They just hear some music and they just start moving. Whereas I can do that, but that's not something that I've been trained to do. So I'll be given something, and I love the challenge of taking that and doing something with that.
That's great. Keep this rolling. We'll do one more of these questions. So as a fan of storytelling through music, how does Andrew Lloyd Webber, fit into that for you? What does he mean to you as an artist, his work?
Andrew Lloyd Webber is it's an iconic name, isn't it? It's just, I think every generation knows his name and grows up with his songs and his music. When I was very young, I actually used to watch Cats, the musical, on a video, and all my friends who didn't like to dance, who used to come round to play, I used to make them watch Cats and dance to it in the living room too, even if they hated it. I used to be the white cat, actually, which is quite appropriate.
That's great. All right, so cut that. Those were absolutely fantastic. These are going to work great in this reel that we're cutting, and then we'll just start rolling again. You all good?
Thank you.
You guys can roll again. Speed. All right, so let's get into the story. This is something that we haven't been able to talk about yet. And I'm excited to hear your thoughts, because you're so, you've played fantastical characters, and now you're in this fantastical movie. Talk about Victoria, and then kind of take us into the story from her perspective.
Okay.
And I can rephrase that if you'd like to start more like explaining what Jellicle Cats are, like the easiest way to kind of start talking about this world that we're in here.
Please don't ask me what Jellicle Cats are, because I think no one really knows. Still. So I think Victoria's journey starts with her very sadly being abandoned. I think what's been interesting for me is obviously creating my own backstory to why she was abandoned, what her life was before we meet her in the film. Because obviously that plays a really important part in, her journey. And I suppose she's still thinking about those things, you know, that she's still dealing with the hurt of being abandoned, but also meeting all these new cats. It's a pretty whirlwind. Oh my god, my voice. It's a pretty whirlwind journey that she goes on, and I have to remind myself, obviously I've been shooting this film now for quite a few months, but that everything that happens to her is actually in one night. So if you think about it all condensed into one evening, that's a lot of crazy things happening pretty quickly. But I think the best way is just that she is just completely wrapped up. She's taken on this journey by these other cats. She has to quickly decide whether she trusts them, whether she wants to go on this journey. And I think there's a real turning point in the film where she actually realises that this might be where she's always meant to be, actually, which is quite a beautiful moment. And yeah, I think it's not an easy path for her, but you know, she lets herself be taken on it, and yeah.
And what are these cats after? What's going on, you know, this evening? Talk a little bit about, you know, Heaviside Layer and what the goal is for each of these cats.
So pretty early on, I think Victoria starts to hear all these words thrown at her, like, you know, Jellicle Cat and the Jellicle Ball, and going to the Heaviside Layer, all these things, and she's obviously wondering what they are, because I think she can judge by people's reactions. Kind of, obviously everyone idolises the Jellicle Ball and the Heaviside Layer and Old Deuteronomy. Everyone's very terrified of this person called Macavity. But everything happens so quickly. Every time she tries to ask a question, something else kind of happens. So it takes quite a long time for her to make head or tail of what's going on. So it was such a bad joke. I didn't even do it on purpose. Sorry. What was the question?
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
The Heaviside Layer. I think it's important to address, you know, this is a performance spectacle. Each of these cats is kind of putting on a show to, you know, impress, to get to that new life. I think that will spring us off into the next part of the discussion.
Yeah, so I think every cat that she meets, she quickly realises is almost either practicing their audition piece for the Jellicle Ball, or, you know, she's at the Jellicle Ball and it really is their audition, their big moment to shine and prove themselves to Old Deuteronomy, to be hopefully chosen to be, you know, the cat that goes to the Heaviside Layer.
Great. So talk about Grizabella and kind of that character arc and why that's so important in this story.
Victoria and Grisabella's relationship is very important in the film. I think you can read into it in different ways, but for me, it's that I see the hurt that Grizabella carries around with her, and she's also a much older cat than Victoria, so I feel that Victoria can see that what's happened to her could, if she let it eat her up, she could become maybe like Grizabella. And so there they find some kind of connection in that Victoria's trying to help her see past the pain and see some of the joy that she might still have, because she's a younger cat that has experienced trauma but has the opportunity to create a better life for herself.
So as far as working with Jennifer Hudson, I mean, you talked about some of the dancers who've been a part of this. There are also incredible performers. Can you talk a little bit about that, you know, working with the likes of Jennifer Hudson, Taylor Swift, and what that's been like?
It's been very, very surreal for someone who doesn't sing, you know, has never sung in public really, apart from at school or at church, to suddenly be singing to Jennifer Hudson, singing with her for a few bars, and also to have a song created for them by Taylor Swift, and also to have that song sung to them for the first time by Taylor Swift. That was a very surreal day, but it's just been phenomenal to hear, you know, the talent that they have, and also Taylor's, to witness Taylor's ability to actually write a song, like lyrics and the melody, and to be in the same room as Andrew Lloyd Webber, working with him, being coached by him, watching him on the piano, everything. It's just been extraordinary.
Can you talk a little bit about this song? That's the only new number in Cats, Beautiful Ghost. What is this song about? talk about it thematically and you know, what it sounds like, just kind of what they created here.
Beautiful Ghosts is it's a song that Victoria sings to Grizabella. I think it starts prompted by seeing a private moment of Grizabella sort of upset and hurt by the other cats and the way they treated her. And I think it's Victoria's way, again, of trying to connect with her and pull her out of her pain and misery. And there's a lovely turn in the song where actually Victoria finds strength in what she's kind of singing to Grizabella, makes her realise it for herself as well. And she sees the light and the hope and the beauty of what she's just found with all these new cats and the friendship she could have. So she's trying to entice Grizabella back to happier days.
And what was the experience, you know, you got to see kind of Taylor and Andrew Lloyd Webber create this song together. What is it about his music that you think is so timeless? Why does it connect with people, do you think?
It's a big question.
Too big, we can go back if so. Or what's it always meant to you? Like the melodies, you know, what is it about his music that resonates with you? Somebody who, you know, knows a lot about music.
I think Andrew's music's it's just iconic. I don't know, it's just so powerful. It's quite, seems simple maybe. I'm sure if you're a musician it's probably not, because it's pretty genius, all the layers that there probably are to it. But I think it just speaks really powerfully to everyone. The way that the music matches with the words that he's written, I think it's really beautiful.
That's great. So can you talk a little bit about just your day-to-day here? You know, this is you're accustomed to wearing, you know, costumes obviously at the Royal Ballet, but this is a different kind of costume. Take us through this process that you guys have been going through as you create this film, you know, the egg scent suits and kind of what a day is like for you.
Every morning I actually start my day with the makeup chair, and I have my face made up to resemble the colour of my cat, but I also have to have my CGI dots put on my face in a grid, so not very glamorous. And then I will do ballet class, which can often be at 6:45 in the morning. So I do that, and then I get dressed into my motion capture suit, which has a lot of wires and a lot of sensors and needs a couple of people to help me into and to check that everything's working and in the right place, so that it's mapping out all the crucial parts of my body. I also have 2 battery packs on my legs, and I have 2 sound packs on my arms, a microphone strapped around my head, so I just really feel like a robot some of the time. And every morning we have to do a calibration walk so that they can check that everything's in sync and tracking our movements properly. So we have to do like a very still walk without moving our arms every morning up and down.
So as this, I mean, as a, you know, when did you start forgetting that all this is on you? I mean, has it been difficult for you as a ballet dancer? I presume you always feel free. I don't know, do you feel constrained by this, or what's that been like for you?
I strangely don't feel too restricted now.
Just start that question. Answer again. It just
Yeah.
says no rumble.
I strangely don't feel constricted by the suit anymore. I think at the beginning I found it slightly testing, especially if you're dancing with someone else. It can be a little bit painful with the battery packs and not getting caught up in a wire or something like that. But yeah, strangely now it kind of feels quite normal. So I think going back to my usual costumes and like wearing a tutu is going to be quite strange again.
Totally. And the purpose of this, you don't have to explain what a Jellicle Cat is, but can you talk about Tom's vision and what the world of VFX is going to be bringing to life with these cats? Explain the look of these cats if you could. Does that make sense?
As in what?
Just how the merging of dancer, your faces, it's kind of a human cat hybrid. I just want to kind of get a little bit of that.
So the vision for our cat's appearance is to be a kind of perfect morph between a human and a cat. So we will have, you know, our features. You can read our expressions in our face, but somehow our human body will be blended into a cat body. So we'll have our fur, and as far as I know, I think our human fingers and toes and feet, so that you can obviously read all our lines and as dancers. and see my toes hopefully pointing.
That's great. You mentioned singing and not, not really merging the two in your time at the Royal Ballet. This kind of goes back to rehearsals, but what was that process with Fiona like? The challenges of bringing it together. Talk about the challenges and how you've met them.
My first audition, actually, for the casting director, I had to sing for her, and I was so incredibly nervous. I remember thinking, this is really ridiculous, because at this point I thought, well, I have nothing to lose, I can just audition, and I have a career at the Royal Ballet, so it's not the end of the world, I've still got that. But I was really terrified. I was thinking, I've done ridiculous things on stage, like balanced on one leg, done all sorts of super scary things, and this was really, I'm not nervous about that, but obviously because I've never trained in this is like an unknown thing. I got really nervous and my hand was shaking. But as I've progressed, I've become less and less nervous. So just the fact for me that I've been on set singing even in front of the crew without feeling shy or nervous, I feel like is quite an achievement. But Fiona basically really helped me to, she basically found my voice for me, because it was very timid, it was quite breathy, I didn't really know how to use it, so she really helped me to open it up, and I've learnt so much about the human voice. And I think as a dancer, before a performance, for example, you feel a bit nervous in case you wake up with an injury or something that wasn't there the night before, but now I'm a professional, I know how to adapt to these things. But I feel like with a voice, it's actually really quite, a sort of a voice that has started to be trained, but I haven't fully trained in it properly. So I feel like it's really unpredictable and hard to know, because so many things can affect it, which I never knew.
Take that unpredictability and into Tom's desire to shoot, with live music. A lot of musicals take the easy way out, and you just kind of record it.
Can I step in really quick?
Yes. This works. And we can do it a few times. It was just something that
So
occurred
sweet.
to us. We were playing around with the light. We thought it'd be fun. Okay. Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
I think this might be the cheesiest thing I've ever said, but I'll go for it. Okay.
Maybe it's something else. I don't know.
No, it's good. It's good. When I'm dancing, the world around me disappears. Before I go on stage, sometimes I have doubts, but as soon as I step on, I know that that's where I'm meant to be, and I feel invincible.
That's great. Let's bring it back on. Let's do one more. And so this time, that's awesome.
That was beautiful.
Really cool.
That was just
Really
like
cool.
perfect.
I want to do.
She should have winked.
So let's do it again, and this time, my first memory of dancing. I don't know if you've put the request out for. We're going to be doing a piece about memories, and so we're going back in time with a lot of the dancers. And so I just want, when the lights go out this time, it would be whatever your first memories of dance are. First time you ever tried it, first time you ever, whether it's at home, performance, whatever comes to mind. Just first memories of dance.
Okay.
Okay. And so you start again with, when I'm dancing, the world around me disappears. And then we go on.
How should I start the second bit? As in my first memory.
memories of dance,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. You rolling? Yep. Great. Whenever you're ready, Frank.
When I'm dancing, the world around me disappears.
Let's try that one more time.
Yeah, no problem.
Not you. Just want to get the lights right. Okay.
Do they all go on and off at the same time? It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Whenever you're ready.
When I'm dancing, the world around me disappears. My first memory of dance was being by myself in my living room, very small, and just being totally swept away by the music. I don't know what else to say, so it's pretty cheesy.
Okay, that's back on. That's great. Okay. Now, if you have 5 more.
Thanks.
So unpredictability, and such a big movie as this, and every day is unpredictable because you guys aren't, lip syncing. What does this do? I guess for the audience more than anything.
So So what do you mean?
Yeah,
Sorry,
what do
is
you,
it-
live music recording, I guess, putting it in, you're kind of putting the voices, you're abandoning it to chance, you know, how's it all gonna go, as opposed to pre-recording and knowing exactly how it's gonna sound. What do you think this does for a piece like this?
I think the aim to be live singing, I think, is good because it adds that real sort of raw quality to our voices, which is going to make it more believable, to be less perfect. So sometimes if my voice isn't feeling particularly good, I do have to remind myself that maybe it's good that it has, you know, a really natural sound to it. Yeah, I think it will help with, you know, reading the emotion, especially my solo. Tom really wanted it to be, you know, it was about having a moment of freedom, and I think that hopefully comes across because, yeah, I had to just let it go a bit and just see what happened with my voice, and hopefully they matched. So
What has it been like working with Tom as he kind of helps you, you know, guide this train along in finding your character? Talk a little bit about his vision for this film and how this journey you've gone on with him to create this.
I think both Tom and I both felt at the beginning of the process when we were talking about my character that Victoria should not be weak or come across as, you know, too helpless. You know, she needs help, but she is still very strong, and she finds more and more strength as she goes through the film. So I think we've always been coming back to that idea with every scene and finding moments to find that together.
When Andy came on board, tell me, just, you know, he's really contemporized the musical. Can you talk a little bit about his artistry and what it's meant to have him here on Cats?
Andy's style is very different from anything I've ever done before. So I think it's been a challenge to find a middle ground of, you know, taking on his dance style, but also showing off my movement style, which is, as I've said, very, very different.
How would you describe Andy's choreography, I guess, to somebody who doesn't really know much about dance?
I don't really know what
Yeah.
style
Gotcha. Okay.
he's. I'm not
No
going
problem,
to
no problem.
speculate on that.
Can you talk a little bit about Eve's work on this film? I mean, I think, you know, every set you walk on, it's just so incredible. Talk about working in a world like this that really puts you there.
The sets are just incredible, and I mean, it's just, we were all, every time we walked onto a new set, everyone would be blown away, not just by the detail, but just by also all the proportions of everything. Because if you imagine how small a cat is, for example, to your kitchen chair, that's how the proportion is for, you know, us as humans having to be next to a chair on set. So actually one of the biggest challenges has been leaping off furniture, which is very, very large, you know, and trying to do it gracefully like a cat.
As far as being a cat goes, you know, your work with Sarah, why do you think dance, ballet lends itself to, you know, feline movements, and what was that process kind of getting up to speed with her like?
We started in cat school, going through the very basics of being a cat, which actually is very much about the senses. Mainly smell, actually, is a cat's probably greatest sense. But thinking about all sorts of things that we don't have as humans, like our ears and our tail, and then we progressed from that. The thing that ballet's really helped me with for being a cat is being light on my feet, which has been very helpful, because as dancers we always land, you know, from the toe to the heel, which helps you land, you know, more softly and more gracefully. So that has been, you know, very helpful.
And we're getting to the end here. What do you hope, you know, you guys, it's been almost 40 years, I think, since Cats was first put on stage. You know, what are your hopes for audiences, and what do you think they'll experience when they see this version of it?
I'm really excited for people to see a new take on this very iconic story, and hopefully inspire like another generation with the same musical but just told in a very different way.
That's great. Okay, so we can cut this, guys. so there, I had one more